know some Biden officials I spoke to yesterday just deeply afraid that the Trump supporters who listen to Trump and his claims aren't going to then heed the calls from state, local, federal officials because they're not going to believe them. They think that's going to be political, and they might stay and put themselves in harm's way or refuse to get that federal aid from FEMA and the like. We saw that in Western North Carolina after Helene. Fears it could happen here again in Florida.
What did we see in Western North Carolina after Helene again? Jonathan Lemire of the Associated Press on Morning Joke this morning, spreading the Democrat Party's propaganda, spreading the fear-mongering, misinformation, disinformation. He should probably be charged with felonies, don't you think? Should have him rounded up along with Joe Scarborough. And who else is going to be arrested again when Trump becomes president? Oh, Hillary Clinton. Oh, and Congresswoman, what's her name? Zoe Lofgren. Yeah, Zoe Lofgren. She's going to be rounded up because they're not wretched paranoids or pinheads or anything. Oh, wait a minute. They are. Oh, I keep forgetting. They are wretched paranoids and pinheads. Well, happy Thursday once again. Welcome to hour number 3. How many licks does it take to get at the center of a Tootsie Pop? Well, how many licks does it take to get to the truth when the Democrats are running this show? Just remarkable government we have. Don't we have an amazing government? And in bed with and, making the business with the news media. The old merger of state and corporate power is alive and well in America. Benito Mussolini would be thrilled. He'd be very proud. The corporatism as a form of government. Man, oh, Manischewitz, as they used to say, back in the old days in Europe back there. Man. That's not important now. Amazing stuff. Yes, sir. Now, the big storm yesterday led to a couple of moments at the White House briefing with Cringe. Cringe Jean-Pierre. And she was dressed like a gangster day before yesterday in a big, oversized, gray, kind of David Byrne, big, Michael Jordan, big, oversized men's business suit, the gray with the chalk stripe. It really wasn't a pinstripe. It was more of a chalk stripe. And she was wearing fuchsia, kind of rayon, I think, polyester shirt with ruffles and things. And if you noticed, it seems most people didn't notice, on her left sleeve, she still had the tag from the store. With a men's suit, when you buy a men's suit, you bring it home very often, the tag on the left sleeve, which is usually sewn in with the 4 corners sewn in, and you got to cut it off with your Swiss Army knife scissors, and remove the tag. And then, but she was wearing the tag like she was going to return the suit for a full refund or something like that. Refund? That's right, refund. And amazing stuff. But she was dressed like a gangster and looked like she had a gun under that suit, under the jacket and stuff. It was very pimpy. Do you think it was pimpy? I thought it was very pimpy, kind of pimpy. And there ain't nothing like a dame from South Pacific, apparently, from South Pacific. There ain't nothing like a dame. But she was dressed more like Guys and Dolls. But I think the song should have been There Ain't Nothing Like a Dame for a variety of reasons. But that's not important now. Let's go to Cringe yesterday, soundbite number 5, because they keep spreading this paranoid, oh, no, you're getting misinformation. We've been fed misinformation for decades now by CNN and from the White House podium and from the DNC and from MSDNC. And we just played an MSDNC disinformation soundbite from the Associated Press reporter at the White House who was appearing on Morning Joke, who was spreading falsehoods, which is what they do. And now the Democrats are really excited in a quasi-sexual way about misinformation and disinformation. And they, of course, accuse everybody else of spreading it while they spread it themselves. It's the Russian playbook. Whatever you're accusing your enemy of is what you're doing yourself in that moment or what you're about to do yourself. So cringe at the White House briefing yesterday. Joe Biden was over in the Eisenhower Executive Office building, the big French colonial building next door, and he was pretending to be in the White House in the little fake studio that they built in the Eisenhower Executive Office building next door to the White House, but it's part of the White House complex. It's inside the broader fence line. And so he wasn't in the White House, but he was pretending to be. And he was saying all kinds of crazy stuff, Joe Biden was. He was just saying nutty stuff because his brain is no good. His brain is no good at all. Let's go to cringe because there's a hurricane. Yesterday, the hurricane had not hit. It hit at about, I think, 8:30 last night on the west coast of Florida, the big hurricane. And Milton, it's called Milton, like the toaster. And here's cringe yesterday, very upset about all kinds of irrelevant stuff that nobody cares about.
The administration will also continue to work out and call out misinformation.
Work out?
And conspiracy theories around the storm and federal and state responses. This is wrong, dangerous, and it must stop immediately.
It's wrong, dangerous, and now, and Joe Biden was talking about this yesterday too, but he never specified what the misinformation was or what the disinformation was. And Joe Biden was talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, the congresswoman, who sent out a mocking tweet saying that the Democrats control the weather, right? Mocking them. They never understand when they're being mocked because they're sensitive little girls, especially their grown men. And that Pound Me Too guy. Who's that Pound Me Too guy? Oh, yeah, Doug Emhoff. Mr. Pound Me Too. Yes, sir. Yeah, they call him Slugger. His Secret Service code name is Slugger because, he hits the girls and makes them cry, something like that. But they're very upset about misinformation and whatever the hell they're talking about. It's purely political, whatever it is. And here's what they do. They never get too specific. That's what Joe Biden did yesterday with his ranting lunacy. And now comes cringe, but I was still looking at the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing. Let's go to soundbite number 1 again, because this is the theme at the Democrat White House, is that it's lies, all lies. They're spreading misinformation. They must be stopped. We must prosecute them, as Hillary Clinton said.
Well, the last few weeks, there's been a reckless, irresponsible, and relentless promotion of disinformation and outright lies.
What is it?
That are disturbing people.
Where?
It's undermining confidence in the incredible rescue and recovery work that has already been taken and will continue to be taken.
What did you mean to say?
It's harmful to those who need help the most. There's simply no place for this to happen.
Yeah, for this reckless promotion of misinformation and disinformation and outright lies. And then never specify what you're talking about. Just throw out these vague, random, undefined accusations at unnamed people, a wretched paranoid, the likes of which, honestly, I think a psychiatrist should be brought in, like at CBS News. They should bring in a psychiatrist of some kind to say, well, what misinformation are you telling? How is it harming people? And who are you referring to? And when did they say these things? But they don't say that. And then cringe comes out about misinformation and conspiracy theories, and it's wrong and it's dangerous and it must stop. And this is the White House podium this is coming from. And that sounds menacing. It sounds very threatening, very dangerous. I think cringe is dangerous and should probably be arrested in a pre-dawn FBI raid with rifles and helmets and turn the body cams off because you never know what might happen. Just amazing, amazing stuff. And then she vaguely accuses people of doing something that is not defined at all.
Everyone, especially those in positions of power, must do everything they can to encourage survivors to register for assistance, not discourage them by allowing these falsehoods to fester.
Fester? I love that word, fester. That reminds me of Brian Stelter at CNN. He's back at CNN now. Now, what are they talking about? They're really accusing President Trump, they say, and it's been weeks and all this. How can it be weeks? Well, there was that other hurricane, of course, but never mind that. President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, last Saturday, where he was shot in the head through the ear by a would-be assassin, a Democrat. And the Democrats, they like to lie that Thomas Crooks, who shot Donald Trump through the ear, was a Republican, right? Now, he did register as a Republican in Pennsylvania. While the Democrat Party was launching a campaign to get Democrats to register as Republicans to vote in the Republican primaries, to monkey wrench the system and to get the least electable Republican into the slot where he's the nominee or she's the nominee, because they want to defeat everybody. And, you know, they might burn your police cars and loot your store while they're thinking about it. But President Trump on last Saturday in Butler.
Kamala wined and dined in San Francisco, and all of the people in North Carolina, no helicopters, no rescue. It's just what's happened there is very bad. They're offering them $750 to people whose homes have been washed away. And yet we send tens of billions of dollars to foreign countries that most people have never heard of. They're offering them $750. They've been destroyed. These people have been destroyed.
Now, I believe, but although Joe Biden didn't specify and Cringe didn't specify, you're spreading dangerous misinformation, and Joe Biden did mention $750. And they're attacking, you know, the problem they have is that there were all these helicopters at Fort Bragg. I like to call it Fort Bragg, even though it's named for a Democrat who was a Confederate Army officer during the Civil War. They were all Democrats. And there were all these helicopters over there, and they weren't coming in, and there wasn't aid for days and days and days coming in particular to Western North Carolina, where there might be a lot of Republican Party voters. And tens of billions certainly are going overseas to Ukraine, which, you know, Ukraine funneled millions of dollars into the Biden family coffers, didn't they? President Trump made a phone call to ask about that, and the Democrats impeached him for it. But President Trump talked about the $750, and that got Joe Biden upset, apparently.
They're saying people impacted by these storms will receive $750 in cash and no more. That's simply not true.
He didn't say, and no more. That's not what he said. But Joe Biden added the words, and no more. Kamala Harris said this about the $750.
The federal relief and assistance that we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750 for folks who need immediate needs being met, such as food, baby formula, and the like.
Has included. Oh, so it's not limited to that? Is that has included President Trump? Oops. Sometimes the buttons don't work. President Trump.
Well, they're doing a very bad job. They've given over $1 billion to illegal migrants that came in, and now they have no money for North Carolina, for Georgia, for South Carolina, and Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida. I think that's a disgrace. This is a country that's being run by fools.
Now, you can't say that they've given $1 billion to illegal aliens, to illegal migrants, because that's misinformation and disinformation, and it's harming people, you know, like Venezuelan gang members whose feelings might be hurt. And that would be a good thing to accuse President Trump of, were it not for the fact that Alejandro Mayorkas said this.
We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
Wait a minute, you don't have the funds to make it through the season, which is till the end of November. And back in January of last year, Alejandro Mayorkas, while we're being overrun by mobs of illegal aliens by the millions, Alejandro Mayorkas said this.
FEMA is providing emergency food and shelter program funds to help cities around the country recover or defray the costs of non-citizen arrivals.
Non-citizen arrivals, that's illegal aliens. The head of FEMA, Deanne Criswell, said this.
We don't have enough money to continue throughout the rest of the year. And we went into immediate needs funding earlier in the year to make sure we could do just what we've been doing through Helene, as well as now the preparations for Milton.
Just don't quote them. Just don't play audio or video of them saying what they said about the money for illegal aliens, and we've run out of money and we don't have enough to get through the end of the hurricane. Just don't quote them on that. Otherwise, you're spreading misinformation and disinformation, because commie pig dogs Pig dog. That's an old German, Schweinhund. I was like the Schweinhund. All of my German, the only German I have control over, is really World War II movie German. Schnell, schnell, mach schnell, Schweinhund, raus, raus. World War II movie. How much more German do you need, really? Come on, we taught him English after we beat him in the Second World War. Come on. Beat him in the First World War. My grandfather did that. Beat him in the Second World War. My father did that. Don't start up again, Germans. I don't want to have to make it 3 generations, okay? You know that the best-selling Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier uses Oxy technology that helps to quickly destroy a whole lot of different viruses and mold spores and odors and a lot more floating in the air in your home or your office. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm has thousands of 5-star reviews on Al Gore's amazing internet, glowing reviews. It works like a champ. Any smell will vanish in just a few seconds with the thunderstorm being on. Talking about trash cans and cigarette smoke and your mother-in-law's cooking. And even Michael Moore is no match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. The powerful thunderstorm sends out O3 molecules that seek out and destroy odors. The molecules even go behind and underneath furniture. Nothing can hide from the thunderstorm, and you don't have to buy filters and replace them over and over again, stupid filters. And you can hold a thunderstorm in your hand. They're only this big, just like this. And right now, you can save $200 American on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. You get 3 units for under $200. So you put one in the teenager's room and in the basement, in the kitchen, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. Use the discount code CHRIS3. That's me, CHRIS, and the number 3 to save $200. EdenPureDeals.com, discount code CHRIS3. Yeah, so they tell you it's disinformation to quote them. That means these are dishonest people, untrustworthy people. Don't trust them. There was another fun moment at the White House briefing yesterday with Peter Doocy of the Fox News Channel and cringe on Pierre. She is not a truth teller by any stretch of the imagination. But I've got that for you coming up. And there's lots of other good stuff, too. And your calls, naturally, because we are conservative talk radio. We're not MSDNC or NPR, National Panhandler Radio. They never talk to people. 888-630-9625. Ain't it grand, ain't it grand? Yes, sir. The rabbit hole, I want to get to that, too. That's crazy. Our Democrat Party and our media, but I repeat myself, they are the real source of misinformation and disinformation, and they have been for a long, long time. They've gotten so comfortable digging in to their misinformation slot and disinformation slot. No, slot. I said slot. And they love just being mouthpieces for the Democrat Party, no matter what the Democrat Party says. They just regurgitate. Completely crazy. Now, there's an organization called Rabbit Hole that I want to share a quick item with you. Rabbit Hole 84. The woke mind virus in the New York Times and Washington Post. And they did an analysis. They conducted an analysis in the Washington Post and the New York Times having to do with keywords for the Democrat Party keywords, right? And they looked at the keywords racism, racist, xenophobia, white supremacy. And over the course of the last several years, if you look at the use of those words in the New York Post and, the New York Times and the Washington Post, the New York Post is a real newspaper. They report news. They don't cover it up. But if you look at the use of just the word racism or xenophobia or white supremacy, over the course of the last couple of years, the increase in the usage of these words at each newspaper, the New York Times and the Washington Post, are exactly mirroring one another. They might as well be the same newspaper. The number of times they use the word racists at the Washington Post is exactly, and then the increase, it skyrockets. It's dribbling along the bottom of the graph. You know, they use it 20 times a month, and then suddenly skyrockets. Use it 150 times a month, the word racist, the term white supremacist, or white supremacy. And the New York Times and the Washington Post using the exact same words. Again, a few years ago, they almost never used these words. Then suddenly, it's off the charts. The blue line for the New York Times and the red line for the Washington Post just skyrocket through the top of the graphic because they both are suddenly using the word multiple times a day, again and again and again. And then they did an analysis of the word sexist, the word misogyny, same thing. And it starts out a few years ago, they're not using the word misogyny at all. And then suddenly both newspapers, the use of the word misogyny skyrocketing right off the top of the chart. The word patriarchy. They should love the patriarchy. They have to learn to love it's like Dr. Strangelove, how I learned to stop worrying and love the patriarchy. You know, the patriarchy just gives you electricity and clean running water when you're on the 90th floor of a building built by the patriarchy and the water pressure is just as good as it is on the first floor. That's the patriarchy. And when you look out the window and see a Boeing airliner fly by with hundreds of people watching a movie and talking on the phone, thank the patriarchy, okay? There it is. They love this. And then words homophobia, homophobic, anti-gay, transphobia, and transphobic. They didn't use it at all. The word was transphobia, for example, was not in use until about the year 2000, 2003. Then suddenly, boom, it's off the charts. They use the word transphobia hundreds and hundreds of times. And when the New York Times uses the word, then the Washington Post uses the word because they're just singing from the Democrat Party's sheet music. They are propaganda outlets, the New York Times and the Washington Post, for the left and the Democrat Party with all of their insane, divisive misinformation, disinformation, propaganda campaigns about Islamophobia. It's just amazing. Anti-gay. And I love it. Transphobic. The word was never used. It just wasn't used at all until like 2005. And then each newspaper used the word thousands of times because they invented these fake issues that allows them to play the role of victim, and they can dress up in zoot suits and, like cringe and come out and lie to us. Oh, the and they become very sincere, very earnest, very ridiculous. But good for these people for putting together this analysis, the rabbit hole with the analysis of the use of these words. Just amazing. The Pearson correlation between the New York Times and the Washington Post and the analysis of word usage between 2010 and 2019. 2010 and 2019. And the graph actually go all the way back to the 1970s, but these words were not in use until the Democrats decided to curl up into a ball like little girls. Oh, no, they're being mean to me. You're transphobic. You're not even trans anything, so shut up and move over there. Stop talking. Reasonable people are trying to be normal over here. Just amazing. So, the 90-something percent crossover between the New York Times and the Washington Post. And then these newspapers are the standard by which all other newsrooms behave. And they all adopt the same language, use the same terms that the New York Times and the Washington Post are using because journalism isn't, it's Pack, friend of mine, a naval officer at the Pentagon who dealt with the press a lot, used to say it's not pack journalism, it's centipede journalism. All the little legs march in lockstep behind the head. And he used to say, and the head of the centipede is the New York Times. Whatever the New York Times says, then the Washington Post will say, then every newsroom in the country will be parroting the same language within a matter of hours. Yeah, so he would never call it pack journalism when they all followed each other. He called it centipede journalism. Steve did, and he was 100% right. The frequency of words denoting prejudice in the New York Times and the Washington Post, and it's just a centipede. It really is. Amazing stuff. I also wanted to give you the weather report today because, a couple of weeks ago I came in and I shared with you the weather. I want to do it again in the Washington Post. They, on the back page of their metro sectional, some of them are metro sectional, some of them are a-sectional. And in the metro sectional today, they have the weather report, and it's the page B6, back of the metro sectional. And the weather for tomorrow, for example, Thursday, they're predicting it will be sunny. And, I'm sorry, I have yesterday's paper in front of me. I brought it in from yesterday. My best girl was reading it aloud to me on the couch yesterday morning. And the weather prediction for today is sunny and 67 degrees, feels like 67 degrees. Well, that's complicated, isn't it? So wait, it's going to be 67 degrees, but it's going to feel like 67 degrees. They got the feel like quotient there. And tomorrow, Friday, sunny and 71 degrees, but it's going to feel like 71 degrees. 71 degrees. Because when it's 71 degrees, it very often feels like 71 degrees where I live. Now, that's yesterday's paper. Today's paper, now they've adjusted, they've updated the weather because tomorrow, Friday, will be sunny, and it says 71 degrees, but it's going to feel like 72 degrees. 72 degrees. How will you know? You might want to ask. Don't worry about it. The libs have it covered. They're predicting 71 degrees actual temperature, but it's going to feel like 72 degrees. And as you know how I feel about this. I think if it feels like 72 degrees, then it is 72 degrees because that's what temperature is. That's how it feels, how warm it feels and how cold it feels. Isn't that amazing? So it's going to be 71, but feel like 72. Who knows? Who can? How do you argue with that? I don't know. Feels like 71 to me. I don't know. I think they're temperature phobic. They got weather phobia. All right, let's take a phone call, Michael. Let's go to Malcolm calling from Cape Cod in Massachusetts. Gesundheit. Malcolm, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. Thanks. I enjoy your show as often as I can. I think you're great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I was listening to what you were saying about the coordination. You might almost call it Gleichschaltung of all the newspapers and the language they use. And I was reminded of a writer who said that they were like remoras attached to a great shark that only swims left. And he said maybe it's even Cthulhu. And he referred to this sort of decentralized coordination as the cathedral. This may be language you've heard before, but it comes from the writer Mencius Moldbug.
Mencius Moldbug, talking about the sharks that only turn left, and the kind of pilot fish that follow along on the sharks.
Well, remoras, he said, those fish that actually stick themselves to sharks with suction pads on their heads, and the large sharks are often covered with these remoras. But yes, this is a sort of loose coordination. It's not actually that they're all following orders. It's just they all sort of march in lockstep as each influences the other. And it's always toward the left.
It is always toward the left, and it has been for generations now. And who was it? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said that today's Democratic Party would be unrecognizable to his father and to his uncle, John F. Kennedy, both of whom were shot and killed, and one by a communist, the other by a Palestinian who was upset about our pro-Israel policies. That Sirhan is still alive and well and living in jail in California, even though he made parole last year with the Democrat Parole Board. But that's not important now. Just amazing stuff. And I got to say, the news media, I grew up in a news media household and a news media family, a CBS News household, and, Walter Cronkite over the house for barbecue and stuff. And let me just say that the American news media today is unrecognizable to me. And I worked in the so-called mainstream news media for years, and it is unrecognizable to me.
Yeah, I'm 68 years old, and it's certainly unrecognizable to me at this point. But I recommend looking up Mencius Moldbuck. He has written very interestingly about this starting in 2007. He came out under his real name now as a fellow named Curtis Yarvin, who some of your listeners may have heard of, but a very insightful political theorist and analyst.
Interesting, fascinating, very interesting. And I have seen the little suction cup fish that latch on to, and Michael Piercy's nodding. He's like, yeah, I know those too. Yeah, know those. And it's true. They just follow, the big dog that's eating up everything and will, gobble you up like that 68-year-old lady in Indonesia who had the, poor judgment to go scuba diving with sharks, and then bad things happen. Man, oh, man. Now, just got a pop-up story here. Ethel Kennedy of the Kennedy family, since we were just talking about the Kennedy family, has died. Ethel Kennedy has died of that generation of the Kennedy family, and that is wild. Not a 96-year-old woman, Ethel Kennedy. Was until today the matriarch, the remaining matriarch of the Kennedy family, and she was married to Robert F. Kennedy, of course, who was assassinated by Sirhan in 1968. Just came up, and then this popped just a moment later. Amazing stuff. The Kennedy family. I am telling you. Can I just tell you? I'm saying, and here's a story out of The Lion, a Connecticut college student that can't read or write. College student can't read or write. She blames the Hartford, Connecticut public schools. 19-year-old student taking legal action against her Connecticut school district after graduating high school while unable to read or write or do math. Alicia Ortiz and her family moved to Connecticut from Puerto Rico to pursue the American dream, now disillusioned with the public school system and presumably the American dream. That's right, we heard Connecticut had the best education and things like that, which is one of the reasons we came to Hartford, Ortiz told the Connecticut Mirror. We came to get better opportunities. She attended public schools from the age of 6 onward, eventually graduating as an honor roll student. Her name is Ortiz, and she came from, someplace where they speak Spanish. Alicia did. Came from Puerto Rico, so they graduated her as an honor student. My child is an honor student at a Connecticut high school, and she can't read this bumper sticker. All right, let's go to Manderson Pooper. Did you see Manderson Pooper? Manderson Pooper flew down, probably took his family's private Gulfstream jet down to Florida and charged the company for it. But for CNN, it was worse than New Year's Eve in Times Square. Manderson Pooper standing out there. He's drenched. He's getting pummeled in the face with the hurricane. And it's hard to say what it is. Might be a pizza box or something. Flies and hits him in the face while he's doing his little live shot.
It's coming in from kind of the north, I guess, northeast. And the water now is really starting to pour over. If you look at the graph, whoa.
Oh, no.
Okay. That wasn't good.
That wasn't good.
We'll probably go inside shortly.
No, I'm going to go inside. I didn't sign up for this. No, you did sign up for that. That's exactly what you signed up for. Hit in the face by flying debris live on the air. Hurricane Milton. That wasn't good. That wasn't good, he says.
If you look at the graph, whoa.
Whoa. Yeah, CNN host Anderson Cooper was drilled in the face with flying debris as he gave a live report in the midst of powerful winds brought on by Hurricane Milton on Wednesday night. Yeah, near the Manatee River. Manatee. You ever see those manatees? It's a sea cow or something like that.
That wasn't good.
Nuh-uh. Yeah, it is like New Year's Eve that they do on CNN. All right, let's take I want to take a phone call, and I want to go to James Carville, too. Let's go to a phone call. Let's talk to real people. Let's go to Jim, calling from the great state of Wisconsin. Jim, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, calling from Wisconsin. I grew up in Florida, Tampa, but I escaped to Wisconsin where we don't have hurricanes. We do have snow, but we don't have to evacuate when it snows, and snow is easier to shovel than 8 feet of storm surge. But my question is, what the Democrats are steering the weather now, I understand, since Obama was elected. Did they steer it into the conservative areas? And seriously, how is this going to affect the vote?
How is it going to affect the vote? There's been some talk by Democrat political operatives, including, who was it on that was on CNN, who was gleefully saying, well, what's his name from the Obama administration, David Axelrod, who was on television saying, well, in North Carolina, the areas most affected are Republican-leaning areas, and they may not be able to make it to the polls, especially for early voting. And in the Democrat areas, David Axelrod said that they will be able to make it to the polls. Now, in Florida, I can tell you that the headline from the Associated Press, hurricanes force changes to Florida's election procedures. Because, Jim, they've got Ron DeSantis down there, and they're already addressing the issues related with voting. The Democrats are hoping to cut off Republicans and, steal the election.